Let me tell you a story. The first humans being in history ran for their own sustenance in search for food. Our ancestors chased their prey for hundreds of kilometers until they hunted it. Today, in a world hiding place of our brains, wonder that mental spirit that we need so much to run an ultramarathon. For those who are not aware of what this sport is about, let me tell you about it. It consists of running long distances greater than 42 kilometers on roads and trails, where our ancestors chased their prey. Today, there are races running from 50 kilometers to 300 kilometers, distances that manage to beat both those who are starting the activity as well as those who practice it every day. And it is here that our ancestral mentality should come into play. My little experience allows me to get into this game and be able to tell you what it is like to feel physically devastated, but waiting to reach the goal that I have been waiting for so many months. Because behind all this, there is daily physically as well as mental training. I started running a couple of years ago when my current trainer told me to trust him because the love of this sport was unique. And it was only enough to trust him to confirm what he promised. Because of my age, 22 kilometers was what my trainer allowed me to run. I was delighted to put everything I had in me to the test and show myself who I was and how far I could go. 7:30 a.m., I am ready at the starting line along with 2,200 other participants and a lot of other people who are going to be witnessing that beautiful race. After the first kilometers, my body barely recognized what is to come. When my fresh mind waits step by step from the moment when it must act fully. After a 6 kilometers full climbing up a slope, my legs are already burning and my body is already asking for a rest. And this is where the fun begins. A fight between my mind and my legs. My mind knows that it loses the feeling of disappointment after the dropout will be very bad. So the mind comes into play and takes center stage in the race. And this is just the beginning. After 50 kilometers, I begin to realize the true climax of an ultramarathon. The point where my head wants to continue and reach the finish line, and my body to sit and rest for days. It is here that I fall in love with the ultra, where I realize the passion that this sport generates and however entered cannot leave it. At kilometer 22 and a few steps from the finish line, my legs are reborn, as if I just started. And with one last effort, I finished. 1,000 of things crossed my mind at that moment. But what impresses me the most is being able to realize how important the support of the mind is for a long distance race. With only 22 kilometers, I got an idea of how difficult it could be to do 100, 200 kilometers and how much I would like to face such a challenge. It really made me think if it is possible that we could all be prepared for it. Can any human being achieve the feat of mentally fighting his body to finish a 100 kilometers race? Tim Noakes of the University of Cape Town, South Africa, suggests that it is our brains and not muscles that dictate how far we can go during intensive activities. Our brain unconsciously lays the foundation to prevent the body from succumbing to extreme exertion. Scientists from around the world specialize in the mental area of athleticism, where they are elite or amateur level, little by little are confirming theories that it is not only necessary to be physically well prepared for a long distance race, but also how well prepared the athlete is mentally. This does not happen only in the ultramarathon. Perhaps you will ask yourself, what do I have to do if I never in my life I have run nor planned to run 100 kilometers up a mountain? How can knowing about this help me if I never planned to run? First of all, I'm going to tell you, run. Run because when you run, you connect 100% with your body. You have all five senses activated, seeing what is happening inside you, listening to yourself. And on the other hand, let me tell you that the same scientists who believe and confirm that mindset while running is of great importance in the ultramarathon also confirm that this mindset isn't carried out into everyday life intuitively and without intention to do it so. The human mind prepares itself to make life as possible, but there are times when the mind puts you in the test, and that is when you can see who is mentally prepared and who is not. This does not mean that every day at all time we are using an ultramarathoner mentality, but it is true that it sometimes uses it. And for this reason, it is that scientists recommend daily mental training to be prepared for these extreme situations that can happen to us. Studies have confirmed that those people who have a good mentally preparation achieve 120% greater improvement in each of their workouts, while those who do not adequate mental health do not exceed 14% in their performance. For this reason, it is that those who run long distances create a greater memory, do handle of things intuitively without having to think about them, and in turn to improve their range of vision when having to retain an image. Now, these are the advantages that you get when you are mentally prepared. But what happens if you are not mentally prepared before a long distance race? From my own experience, I cannot say much about it because I always like being both physically and mentally prepared for a race because I take into account how important both of these are. But what happens to those who face something without even knowing that they are going to encounter and are not mentally trying to face difficulties? This already gives clues that bad things can happen. There are countless of examples of people who knew they were not prepared for that type of race and yet decide to start from the starting point with the rest of the competitors and did not end well. A clear result of this are the dropouts in race, when the body dominates and not the mind. The dropouts are mostly justified by tiredness, but I will not call it that. I will call it defeat. as I comment at the beginning of the talk. The defect of the mind against a difficult rival, such as physical conditions, does not have good consequences. This effect leads the body to have total control, and it may lead to injuries, dehydration, loss of minerals, where the mind does not decide what to incorporate into the body. And this is how it works. The gap between the mind and the physical state is not very wide, but those who fall into it really manage to keep going. You must always be careful not to fall when you walk on the edge. You must seek that domain in order to continue step by step the way to the goal. There are cases of large ultra runners who were injured in the race or even abandoned it, and in most of the cases, they admit that they have good consequences, that they have given up due to lack of mental preparation and not only from the difficulty of the race. This speaks well for what I have mentioned throughout the entry talk. The race mindset is super important and should never be put aside. So, does a good career mentally help both to finish this race and to do different things in everyday life? After everything traveled and commented on the matter of preparation, I say to you, do not stop training your mental health. It will help you in everything that surrounds you, and above all things, you will be able to face and make decisions in a unique way. It is important not to give up on anything that you set out to do in life. And this is what mental preparations is for. To know what to do in difficult situations. Because abandoning is simple as saying, I'm tired, I give up. And at that moment, you should not forget all the hard work that got you where you are. After a while, the disappointment will be even greater than at the time you decide to leave. That is why you never have to give up, even thought the difficulty is much greater than what you have thought possible. Fede, my coach, always mention a phrase that I repeat all days in my mind. There is pain that does not hurt. And I think that is part of the essence and passion of this sport that leaves you so much to live day to day. The pain always persists. You just have to know how to hide it. Thanks.